what are your philosophies that help you to create the amount of results that you've got in the amount of time that you've got, because it's extraordinary?
Sure. I mean, obviously, a lot of people want results right away. I think one of the biggest things that I experience out there in the field, I'm sure you experience it too, is people get in, and in their first 3 days or their first week, they're really, really disappointed and frustrated with themselves for not getting the results. So I've always kind of looked at this as a long-term venture, a challenge. I've looked at this as like just a growth period. I don't look at it as sort of like, hey, I'm going to get in, and if I don't do this, I'm going to be upset. I just get in and just get started and just get going. And every day I'm going to learn something new. Every day I'm going to grow. And if I just learn and apply these things, obviously I'm going to become a better human being. I'm going to become better at sales. I'm going to become better at business. And so that's sort of my attitude towards everything. So yeah, I do think that the biggest misconception out there is that people get in and they expect. It's good to expect big things. I don't want to take away from that. But at the same time, if you're easily frustrated or you're easily disappointed by not hitting these unrealistic goals for you, or even if they're possible, still, I mean, you give yourself no leeway for a learning curve. To get frustrated and get upset is it's actually detrimental to their business. And so one thing that I've been teaching people now at the start of 2013 is to really get a little bit more laser focused, to really get a little bit more just steer towards the direction you want to go, and when you start steering a little bit left, a little bit right, just get right back on track with what you're doing and be a lot more effective. Set a goal to like get laser focused and be more effective with your time, because as long as you accept the fact that you're on a journey, then you're not going to be so frustrated if after walking 3 steps you didn't reach your destination. You're going to realize you're 3 steps closer to your destination. And by having the proper mindset and the proper foundation, you know, people realize this is a phenomenal opportunity. I mean, what we're going to learn here in this journey, we're going to be able to take and apply for the rest of our lives in any internet marketing venture, and any products that we ever want to do, anything, any company we ever want to consult for. You know, heck, just throwing it out there, if all I did was go in Empower Network, study all the information, apply it, and have some success here in Empower Network, if that's all I ever did, I could take what I learned and I could go out and be a consultant to Fortune 500 companies or even just small businesses around the country. I don't think I'd ever have to struggle to make money ever again in my life just with what I can learn through my experience with Empower Network. See, that's the part of the journey that I think if people understand that, if they have the right foundation, what you're learning, what you're going to take away from just from the learning experience alone is worth far more than the cost of entry in this program. I mean, I'll give you a couple examples. You know, Tony Rush, okay? Tony Rush is just talking about effective communication. Well, you know, I spy on Tony Rush a lot. Tony's very, very easy to listen to. He's very methodical. He's intelligent. He never runs out of things to say. One thing he taught me early in the business, and he didn't teach me personally. Tony didn't get me on the phone. Actually, I don't think I've ever been on the phone with Tony. It's possible, but I don't think we ever have. But he just taught it openly to the company, to everybody. Everybody had the same learning experience that I had. Just the question is, did they take away from it? Tony Rush said, you know, when you're going out and you're buying leads and you're going and doing lead generation, you know, you might get some sales, but that's not really where you get your sales from. Sales comes from effective communication. So as you build this list, your sales are going to come from the ability to effectively communicate with that list. So you might have an autoresponder going. That's cool. But if it's somebody else's autoresponder, that's great. Plug and play, you're in the game. But that's not your personal communication. Or you might be doing swipe emails. Like you might have sent out a swipe email to this webinar tonight from David Wood. That's great. Doing something is better than nothing. But as soon as you learn how to be an effective communicator with your list and start off your emails with these little personal stories and just really learn how to engage with your list, make it more real, you know, your sales start to dramatically go up. They start to spike up. And when I heard that little tip, all I did, and Tony doesn't even know this, I'm just giving him some credit right here, but all I did was I took what I learned and I started teaching it to my team as well, and I started doing it myself, and I watched my email conversions literally double off of, you know, and I'm being very, very generic with what he said. He said, you know, effective communication is where the sales are at. Obviously, taught a lot more in the training in Empower Network. So I'm smart enough to know I bought the training and study from him. But just these little tidbits are part of this journey where when I walk out of here, I'm going to walk out of here with an equivalent of a master's degree in internet marketing, like a black belt in internet marketing, where I came in with a little bit of experience. I had a little belt on, but it was the first belt you get, the first notch on the ladder. And I'm going to come out of here with a black belt. I'm going to come out of here armed and equipped with the knowledge and information that is going to make it so I never have to worry about unemployment. I never have to worry about feeding my family. I never have to worry about what the job market's doing, what the economy's doing. Forever, I can be an entrepreneur, and I can literally go out there and either create my own business, or I can market with a company like this, or I can go out there and consult with big companies because of this journey. Because of this journey. And by that, having that foundation and just accepting that, I'm not worried about the learning curve. You know, I'm not worried about the stumbling blocks that are going to come along the way. I'm just not concerned with that at all. So I have this foundation, and I encourage everybody listening to do the same thing. In 2013, just get over the whole being a whiner and a complainer. Be over, you know, making excuses. I heard a long time ago, you can make excuses or you can make money, but you can't make both at the same time. So if you're busy making excuses, you're going to notice you're not making money. If you're busy making money, you're going to notice you're not making excuses. So every day you've got to wake up and decide which one am I going to be? Am I going to make excuses or am I going to make money? Now, in Empower Network, the new version of that is, am I going to be a wussy or am I going to be a badass? Because we have a wussy and a badass both sitting on our shoulders at any given time. You know, like the old story of like you got like the good angel and then you got like the devil, the bad angel. Well, the devil's like your inner wussy, and your inner wussy is just always feeding you stuff in your ear, is always telling you all this stuff about how you don't have money, you can't go all in. Why is David Wood always pitching all in? Doesn't he respect people like me that are broke? Doesn't David Wood understand that I'm broke? And you got this inner wussy that's always speaking. But then you have this inner badass over here that's saying, dude, you deserve more. Your family deserves more. You love your family. Dude, you can do this. You literally can do this. And you got this battle going on all the time. And, you know, having the right foundation to be able to just take your inner wussy and be able, you know, in the cartoons, like it goes poof and it disappears. Well, that's what you got to do. You just got to take that inner wussy and then poof, make it disappear, release the inner badass, and just realize, hey, look, I'm going to stop being that person. In 2013, I'm going to set some goals where I'm no longer going to complain. I'm no longer going to be a whiner. I'm no longer going to be a wussy. I'm no longer going to make excuses. And I'm going to accept the fact that, hey, this is a journey that I'm on. And the faster that I get the right foundation and the right attitude about this, the sooner I'm going to make money. The sooner that I get rid of that wussy and let this badass over here start taking charge, the sooner I'm going to make money. And that's we could teach all day long about specific how-to. We could teach all day about that stuff. But you know what we really need to be doing is teaching to have the proper foundation. I have so many people that say, well, Chris, you know, I can't go all in. Well, my only answer to them is you're right. You can't. I mean, but if you want to rephrase that and say you can go all in, you know, you're right. You can go all in. So many people spend so much time arguing what they think is possible instead of just accepting it and saying, you know what, I left that person back in 2012. I closed the door on 2012. I closed the door on that person, the person that used to be the I can't person, and now I'm the how can I person. Now I'm all about, hey, you know what? Let's be the how can I person. How can I do this? How can I do that? So every single person, if you get rid of your vocabulary, things like, well, I can't afford to go all in. Well, if you say that, you're right. You're going to convince yourself that you can't. But instead, if you say the same thing and just say, how can I go all in? And then do this. It's not anybody's responsibility but yours. So when you say, how can I go all in? It's not your sponsor's responsibility to help you go all in. It's not your team's responsibility. Dave Wood and Dave Sharp, they're my mentors. I just joined directly through a link and ended up with them. You know, I don't send them questions about, you know, how do I do this? How do I do that? Or if I have, it wasn't until I was already making 10 grand a month. And just wanted to learn how to spike it up a little. I went out there and said, how can I? And then I asked that question to myself. I'm not putting that question out there to the world and saying, you need to answer that for me. I'm saying, how can I, Chris? I'm having an internal discussion with me and my inner badass here. How can I? Me and my inner badass are talking back and forth. And my inner badass, which I just released, is saying, you know what, Chris? I'm going to go to work for you. And while you're sleeping, I'm going to be coming up with ways to make this possible because you want it. You want it bad enough. So my biggest thing that we're talking about here, David, to answer your question, is just the biggest thing about setting up your foundation for your business is just becoming the person that's going to be successful. Become the leader that people want to follow. People don't want to follow a wussy. They just don't. They don't want to follow a complainer. They don't want to follow somebody who's always talking about everything that's negative. They want to follow a winner. They want to follow somebody who's leading by example. So if you spend your time, constantly doubting everything and constantly pointing out what's negative and constantly doing that, what's happening is people don't want to follow that. And you're just not going to get it. And so I just totally agree with what I heard Tracy and Tony say, which ultimately a lot of it is just modeling. If we just model after people that we want to be like and just model after them, how many people on this Google Hangout are only at the $25 level? Or how many people here how many people in Empower Network do I meet when I go to these conferences and they're having success? How many of them are like, yeah, well, I'm only in at the $125 level. I've made about 25 grand there so far, but I'm only at the $125 level. No, you hear the same thing, which is, hey, look, despite the odds, I went all in. A lot of them didn't have the money. They're like, look, I didn't have the money, but I made a decision to go all in. I did whatever it took. I sold my car, I did this, I did that. I did whatever it took, and I went all in. And then I took massive action, and I started following all the principles. For some of them, it didn't happen in 3 days. Some of them, it didn't happen in 3 weeks. But eventually, it happened because they modeled after the people that were successful. They started listening to them and following their advice, and eventually they started getting those results for themselves. And that's really kind of been the New Year's goal for me, David, is just really just modeling after each and every person. Modeling after you, David. David Wood, you taught me about, effective calls to action. Do you know how much more money that's made me by having an effective call to action? I took my income from about $17,000 to $41,000 in a month by taking a principle that you taught me about effective calls to action. Now, what if I invested to go all in this business and I was able to take my income from $17,000 the month before to $41,000? How much is that worth? And how many more months am I going to reap the benefits of that one nugget on creating these effective calls to action? What about David Sharp, teaching me how to be transparent and authentic and being able to be myself, being more comfortable in my own skin, not having to try to fake it, not having to try to, try to become, somebody fake. Just be myself. I'm sitting here super casual, just not really caring. Sure, I don't cuss like some of the other people here, and maybe we have different beliefs on things, but you guys accept me for who I am. It's this total transparent, authentic. Heck, you want to learn about transparency. If you can ever get around Ashley, I had a chance to hang out with her in Florida last week. Ashley's like this just amazing person with probably the stories that are crazier than anything you've heard from any of us. And she's sharing those with me, and it's just what I took away from that experience is just like, holy smokes, we have some very, very real people here. It's a very, very real thing. These aren't people who are just out to take advantage of people. These are people that are out there that have maybe been taken advantage of in their life, and they don't want that, and they're on a mission to be able to actually go out and help people. And Tracy, I'll go over to Tracy. Tracy taught me team culture. When I first got in the business, looking at the dream team and looking at what they did and modeling after that, I looked at her and said, now there's a leader that I can model after when it comes to creating team culture and community culture. So you see, there's these people. There's Lawrence Tam, who showed me that it was possible to be part-time in this business and create a significant income part-time. So what I did was I looked at the people that were successful, I modeled after them, and I followed in their footsteps. And I only had about an hour or two a day to do it. So I was very, very, very focused in that hour or two a day to say, how can I take some of what David Wood teaches, some of Tony Rush, some of Tracy Walker and Lawrence Tam and David Sharp and Ashley Needles, and you name all the leaders out there. How can I do it? And that's it. See, I'm on a journey. So, if I have to fail my way forward, I'm fine with that. If I have to hit a few bumps in the road, I didn't get 2,000 leads in the last 24 hours like Tony Rush did. Heck, I haven't even ventured into the paid advertising game. 99% of what I've done is just free advertising. My two main strategies are Facebook and the Empower Network blog. That's where I get probably 95% of all my business comes from those. I even created a couple of my own custom sales funnels just to mess around with it and have some fun with it. But at the end of the day, like clockwork, man, that Empower Network blog keeps ranking for me. So I'm going to be learning so much more about paid advertising and all this stuff. But that's it. That's Dave. I mean, David, it's kind of a long answer, but I'm just so excited to be out here. I'm so excited for what 2013 has to bring, and there's just so much on my mind.